Hello, and welcome back to Wayhaven Chronicles, now with Book 3. For those of you who might remember, I've played through Book 1 and 2. Well, I say played through, it's partially played through, but mostly read through. You can make your own choices, but it's still kind of like a choose your own adventure novel. Either way, I've played through the first two games quite a while ago, hence I remember some things. I remember most of the characters. I may not remember the voices I gave them back then. I remember a few, but not all. Um, I remember the general story and how it went. I don't remember every little detail. What the game here allows us to do now is we can either get like a short recap and decide, key moments, which choices we made. The problem I see with that is that I don't actually remember which choices I made. I remember maybe the outcome of the choice, but not the choice itself. So I'm hesitant to do that. What I'd ideally want to do is get a recap and import the character from book two. Um, but I don't know if that's a possibility we can do, because I don't think so. Either way, I will import the character from book two because that just seems like the optimal thing to do. If that means we get no recap, then we're just gonna have to live with it. So I'm gonna try that. I might have to make a cut here if it asks me to put in some login details or something, which I expect it to do. Yeah, retrieve saved games online from choiceofgames.com. We'll see how it goes. Please type your email address. Okay, I'll be right back. All right, synchronized one save game, downloaded one new saved game. Saturday, the 30th of October, 2021. That could be it. I think it probably makes sense that it was 1.5 years ago. For the first time I looked at it, I was like, 1.5 years ago? Has it really been that long? But thinking about it, yes, it has been. I should be worried for myself if it had been like 3 months and I'd forgotten everything. But 1.5 years, yeah, that's fine. Unfortunately, that save file was created at the end of book one. You need to choose a save from book two. Did I make a save at the end of book two? I should have. Let me. I'll be right back again. I'll open up book two and see. Hello there, save game from book two. I have found you in book two. Uh, when I opened up book two, it immediately put me onto the option of me being able to save the game. So that was very practical. Cost me about 30 seconds of work. And yeah, there you go. We'll choose that. Save game successfully loaded onto book three. At the borders of Wayhaven, in the depths of the forest, there aren't many moments that beat dusk in summer. Dribbles of twilight sunset wash the lush forest in strokes of damson purples and lemon yellows, and the warmth hums from the trees to cocoon me in safety. A carpet of moss beneath my shoes, vibrant and fluffy, sends a wave of sweet wetness to catch my senses. The cheerful chirrups of birdsong are the only thing which could make the scene most perfectly idyllic. Oh, and the removal of the pack of snarling werewolves stalking their way towards us through the trees. Nat slides a step forwards, the tip of her boot breaking through the thick tufts of grass as she stays wary. Whatever issue we have caused, I'm sure we can talk this through. A growl makes the air shiver nearby. Calmly, she continues. I don't think calmly is what they're thinking, I interject. Well, not unless they're planning to calmly rip us to pieces. Nat shoots a withering stare my way. That's not helpful. I'm just saying, I shrug. I'm pretty sure this isn't the peaceful resolution the others envisioned when sending Nat and me out on this mission to placate the pack. The chattering growls of the werewolves continue to cut through the once safe silence of the forest. We back up even faster. The moss is treacherous beneath our shoes, almost making us trip and tumble backwards in our haste a few times. My gaze scans the threat in front of us as best I can, but the dying light of day means the darkness is creeping into the corners of my vision. Only shadows shift at the edges of my view, sending a shudder through me and causing my skin to prickle. I stifle my heavy breathing, trying to listen through the eerie silence. Soft thuds resound behind us. We slowly turn. Gigantic grey paws pad onto the overhanging rock that towers above. the pack leader flanking us. The hulking form of her beastly figure eclipses the final rays of sunlight as her huge head bows down towards us from her superior vantage point. A thick line of drool drips from her very long, very sharp, bare teeth. Oh, that's disgusting. Hmm. Nice doggies. Uh, hmm. I mean, there's three things I could potentially say here, which is this, this, and this. I don't think I'm gonna do this, so it's this or this. And I know in sort of with real wolves, this would be the right thing to do. But they're werewolves, which makes this a little bit more complicated. But I still think, out of curiosity, let me actually look at my stats first. I'm not very intimidating. Although I do believe that on a scale from it doesn't really make sense to have a scale from charming to intimidating, because I think you can be very well be both charming and intimidating at different times. So I think putting those opposite each other doesn't make too much sense. Yeah, that's definitely me. You know what? I think I'm going to go with that either way. There might be a check here behind that, which is like if you've got 60% or more intimidating, this works, or even more. Screw it. Doing it anyway. My glare locks onto hers. A snarl erupts from low in her chest, enough to rip through the silence surrounding us. Instinctive fear wants to drag my gaze away, but I keep focused. From the corner of my eye, I can see Nat's head flick about in concern at the situation. Detective, we're surrounded, she whispers. I don't exactly need the reminder, so I focus everything I have on the stare down. The pack leader inches forwards with another growl. The leader leaps from the protruding rock to land with a soft thump on the ground in front of us. Then she slowly rises to stand at her full height on two tree trunk sized legs. To my surprise and slight concern, I learned today that werewolves are bipedal and huge. And those lessons seem all the more terrifying as she looms over us, at least 7 feet tall. Her boulder-like shoulders are covered in dense grey fur, which runs the length of her extremely long arms and down the front of her barrel chest. Her large ears flatten along the length of her square head as she lumbers closer to us. As she stalks forwards, I manage to hold my ground. Whether because I'm paralyzed by fear or determination, it's hard to tell. Her claws clack together as she raises her paw. Then, suddenly, she stumbles away with her nose wrinkled. The werewolves begin to shift, banging into each other as they sniff at the air with muzzles crinkled and tails tucked beneath them. The pack leader spins on the spot and lets out a roar of a growl before staring back at me. Her yellow eyes bore into mine. It's difficult to tell what lies behind that narrowed gaze. Eventually, her nose lifts again and she sniffs at the air before darting off into the trees with a sharp shake of her massive head. What just happened? I ask after a moment's pause. Nat stares about the forest while blinking a few times. I have no idea, but whatever it was worked in our... Oh, what is this awful stench? I swing around to stare at her as she hunches against a tree and covers her nose with her jacket sleeve. What smell? I frown, but only a few moments later, a slight pungent odor begins to invade my nose. It scratches at the back of my throat until I'm hacking out a cough myself. Footsteps shift through the thick grass nearby. A familiar muffled voice follows the shuffling. I can't sense any. They're gone. Finally, if I had to wear a mask any longer, I was going to suffocate. Forget on what? The air you don't need to breathe? Wow, you're hilarious. There's a deep laugh accompanied by someone else's long groan. As always, not helpful not knowing who's speaking. The other members of, well, I knew that it was them, but who's who? The other members of Unit Bravo make their way through the trees. The sight of them draws a heavy breath of relief from me, even with the sting in my throat. Morgan stops a few feet away after yanking off a thick mask and dropping a metallic globe onto the ground. She looks as cheerful as usual, which is not at all, the mask she wore having hidden a tight frown of disdain. She lets out a huff of breath. It's not long until Ava strides over beside her, giving a stoic and unreadable inspection of the forest before a flicker of relief falls across her expression when she sees us. But neither of them is the vampire that brings an uncontained smile to my lips. Farah's amber eyes scan the barrier of trees until they land on me, widening as they do. She's beside me in a flash faster than I can follow, her hands on my arms and her usual grin replaced by a frown. You all right? We heard things getting tense, so we came straight away. You should have just run. Oh man, are you hurt? Did they? Her fearful blabbering is endearing, but unnecessary. You think a massive, terrifying pack of werewolves could spook us? Nah. I shake my head at her worries. I manage a sharp laugh. I think the detective was far braver than I, Nat admits with a half smile, now able to stand without the awful stench invading the woods any longer. Farah shrugs. Well, obviously, they're better than any of us. I meet her smile with my own, feeling a warmth envelop me as though she'd pulled me close with just those words. I can almost hear Morgan rolling her eyes at us. Farah wraps an arm around me, squeezing me close before tiptoeing to plant a gentle kiss on my cheek. If you keep getting me that worried, then I'll be wanting to come everywhere with you. Make it sound like that would be something I wouldn't want. I reply with a smile of my own, leaning further against her. She gives a chuckle as her gaze dips, a few glossy coils brushing against her cheek. That is... Okay, that's probably her. You have no idea how bad I have it for you already. She lets out a breath and we head over towards the others. As the group convenes and the adrenaline drains from my body to leave me calmer but exhausted, my gaze falls into the metallic orb. What is that? I ask. The smell emanating from it has finally dispersed completely. Fritillaria imperialis, Nat says while looking down at the object. It seems she now recognizes it. The crown imperial plant? I ask, my brow rising for a moment in surprise. She breaks into a smile. Yes, exactly. Good, another gnat. Morgan groans. One is bad enough. Nat does a good job of shrugging off the comment, as do I. It's not just the plant, but also a few other magical herbs to help make the musky scent extremely potent. She looks to the others. Good choice. Incredibly useful at deterring certain types of supernaturals, Ava adds. Such as werewolves, I say. Nat nods. Exactly. Speaking of that threat, Ava's glance bounces around the scene. Maybe the warehouse would be a safer location to discuss just what happened with this mission. Nat rubs a finger across her lips, frowning. Yes, Agent Langford will be waiting for the report. I stare back through the trees to where the werewolves had been. How could it have gone so wrong? You okay, babe? Farah asks, coming to stand by my side and staring into the darkness where I'd been looking. I'm not sure, I admit. I can't figure out what happened here. Forget about it, she says, to which I raise a brow. She chuckles. All right, so don't forget about it, but at least don't think on it for a bit. She wraps an arm around my middle and beams. We've barely had a chance to spend any time together over the past month. Since the Ma'alu said it's been mission this, mission that, meeting that. I sigh, partly from the exhaustion of all this and that. You're right. Let's enjoy the 5 minutes we get walking to the car to be a proper couple. I think I can manage that, I say, placing my arm around her shoulders as we walk on, a bright expression on my face to match hers. Back at the warehouse, the group of us seem to relax the moment we step into the comforting depths of the living room. Not much has changed, though I notice a few shelves have been added to one of the alcoves. Over the edge of the top shelf tumbles a large, lush houseplant blooming with blousy pink flowers. Next to the plant are a few photo frames. Fra is in every photo, apparently having attempted selfies with the rest of the team. Nat smiles warmly next to Farah in one, and Ava is staring away from the camera as Farah grins in another. What I assume is Morgan's photo is just a blur of dark hair and a burgundy shirt, though at least Farah is still beaming in it. There's an empty frame, and I wonder if it's saved for me. I get so caught up in staring at the photos that I flinch when Ava's phone rings. Yes, of course, she nods. Understood. She finishes the conversation and slips the thin black phone into the pocket of her combat trousers. Agent Langford is on her way, but running late. Nat tugs off her jacket and lays it with care over a nearby chair. Then maybe we should discuss the mission briefly while we wait. Everyone mumbles agreement to the plan and settles about the room. Fra and I take our now usual place on the sofa beside each other. My arm rests around her shoulders as her hand settles on my thigh. It feels so comfortable and natural that I barely even notice when we end up this way together now. What happened with you guys and those werewolves tonight? Fra asks, shifting around in her close position to look at me closer. I rub a hand over my forehead as memories come whirling back into my already tired mind. No idea. We went in there to meet and discuss their needs, to help settle the pack into a location around Wayhaven, as we were assigned to do. I glance over at Nat, who takes a deep breath before nodding. And everything was going just fine. I continue, frowning as I think back on a meeting which had progressed smoothly. Until suddenly, it wasn't. Something happened during the meeting, Nat adds, staring at the ground with a brow furrowed as deep as mine. They became anxious almost. They began to enclose us in before the leader made a hostile move. We retreated at that point. Are you sure neither of you did anything that might have aggravated them? Ava asks, a hand rubbing at her chin. She's obviously as confused as we were. I may have made one teeny sarcastic comment while we were there. No, I did everything as we rehearsed. It should have been simple. I lean back while throwing a hand up. I shake my head partly from memories of what happened and partly just from sheer bewilderment. Jules is right, Nat adds, leaning forward as she tugs her hand out of her pocket. They did everything that was asked of them without a flaw. A swell of pride catches me at her comment. Then what could have provoked them to do this? Ava shakes her head, glaring at the ground. The meeting was at their request. And what could we have done to stop it from escalating? Nat adds to the mess of questions. The clicking of the door opening brings us all out of the heavy atmosphere. We swing our heads around to find my mother, striding inside with a pile of paper gripped tightly in her hand. I believe nothing you could have done would have changed the outcome, she says, her voice hoarse but her countenance as professional as usual. Her heels click across the wooden floor until they're muffled by the rug. Why not? Farah asks. She takes a breath so deep it makes her shoulders rock. Because of this. The papers slap down onto the table, where they fan and spread across the surface. What's on them is on full display, and what is on them is me. What is this? I blurt out, snatching up one of the printouts and staring at my own photo. The others take a copy of it too as the room falls silent. The photo shows me outside of the station pulling on my coat. It was apparently taken while I was unaware. It was obviously not shot not long ago. And I look the same in it as I do now. Beneath the photo is a bullet point list of something. It's in a language I don't recognize and not even close to one of the many languages I know. Ava's gaze flicks up to meet Rebecca's. It's a trapper's bounty. Ah, okay. Yeah, let's go with that. Oh, really? An odd mixture of emotions wells up inside me until curiosity wins out. I tug the paper closer. How much am I worth? Really, babe? Farah asks with a sigh. What? I shrug as I wave the printout in front of me. Just curious. More than I've ever seen for a bounty, Morgan answers. My eyes widen. Really? I give a half smile and a nod. Nice. This gives an explanation for why the meeting with the pack turned out as it did, Ava says. Rebecca nods. The pack likely weren't aware of the bounty until a couple of hours ago. That's when our sources spotted this. After finding out, it's no surprise they thought about taking the chance of capturing Jules. Ava eyes the files on the table before looking to Rebecca. So how do we proceed from here? We will have to be extra cautious from now on. She runs a hand over her smartly tied back hair before letting it drop heavily to her side. Anyone not strictly with the agency may take their chances with a bounty this large. Silence pervades the room until Rebecca takes a step towards me. May I speak with you alone for a moment? I glance at the others before giving a nod, getting up and following her out into the hallway. The shadows are deeper out in the corridor, a chill running the length of the hall so that I have to rub at my arms. Are you still willing to be a part of this team now? This world? She asks suddenly. Murphy was one thing, but now every supernatural and trapper will know you, what you can do. Her eyes find mine and don't shift from them, apparently trying to read my reaction. But I do the same with her. A few more wrinkles have developed around her eyes from a few months ago, new streaks of grey hair shading the usual light brown glossy locks, and her skin has greyed. It's not the way I've pictured her for all these years. Are you worried if I'm still up for it, or are you asking me to pull out? She glances away. Would it matter if I asked? Hmm. Hmm. It would matter, but I can't back out now. Her shoulders sink, her tailored jacket wrinkling with emotion. I know. Things were much easier when you were separate from this. Easier? Safer. But not honest. I sigh and place a hand on her arm. We're together in this now. Before, we barely saw each other. She searches my face again, though I'm unsure what for. The conversation comes to a complete halt as the door beside us creaks open. Fra hovers in the doorway, her hand still on the door handle. Is there something you require, Agent? Rebecca asks, a sudden professionalism overpowering her that almost makes me doubt the worried mother from a moment before was the same woman. The facility have been trying to ring you. They need you back there. She gestures at Rebecca's phone. I think your phone must be dead. Rebecca mutters a curse before dragging out her own phone and letting out a groan. Understood. She shoves it away again. I will return now. She makes to stride away before pausing. A quiet moment passes before she mumbles. Please stay safe. And she continues on down the hall until it's only Farah and me left. Farah grins over at me. We begin to make our way down the hallway, our steps matching each other's, a quiet falling between us, until Farah eventually breaks it. Are you staying here for the rest of the night? I glance at my phone and a groan erupts from me as I look at the time on the screen. No, I've only got a couple of hours before I have to be at my other job. I slide my phone back into my pocket. I'll just grab my stuff from my room and head out. Well, that's no fun, she replies through pouting lips. I chuckle at her expression. No, but that seems to have been my life for the past month. Tell me about it. She throws her head back with a moan. Work, sleep, she sags. I can't remember the last time we got some free time. We take the moments that we can. I reply, drawing a smile from her, which gives me a stronger rush than any jolt of caffeine. We draw us to a stop outside of my door. The twists and turns of the warehouse now beginning to make sense to me, though it also helps to have a guide. The smile faded from Farah's lips a while ago, a frown replacing it that has a nervousness creeping over me. Are you all right? I ask finally. Her frown deepens. Are you? What do you mean? The trapper's bounty. Her voice pitches higher as she clasps her hands together. My gaze falls to the floor. Oh, that. I drag my eyes back up to meet her. You seem scared. You worried about a few trappers? The attempt to lighten the moment doesn't seem to work. I'm shit scared. She steps close, her hands on my arms and her worried gaze not leaving mine. But not of trappers, of losing you. We only just got each other. She moves her hands up to cup my face. Aren't you afraid? Hmm. Hmm. Interesting choices there. I'm gonna go with that. I turn away with a shake of my head. Fear gets me nowhere. I will deal with it if it becomes an issue. I mean, sure, that's one way to look at it. Her hands fall away from me. But just ignoring it isn't going to make it go away. I'm aware of that. I roll my shoulders back. But until it becomes an issue, there's nothing I can do. She nods, though the frown seems to indicate she's not wholly on board with the idea. My phone buzzes in my pocket and interrupts the conversation. I drag it from my pocket, swiping my thumb across the screen to stop the alarm. Well, I better get going. All right. She leans close to plant a peck of a kiss on my cheek. But try to be careful, all right? As much as I can be, I say, my fingers touching the spot she'd kissed, a warm tingle lingering there. She throws me a final smile before heading off down the hallway, leaving me with my thoughts remaining solely on her. Earlier that evening, in the forest on the borders of Wayhaven. The girl's breaths rip out of her stinging lungs, the rasping sound of gasps masked by the slap of her bare feet on the wooden floor. Trails of blood stain the woodwork, turning the oak from sandy brown to muddied red. The girl doesn't feel the wounds that tear into the skin of her feet. She just keeps barreling on down the hallway, sucking in air. Finally, she runs into the safety of her bedroom. The cotton curtains, thick carpet, and mounds of duvet instantly help ease the adrenaline, pumping like acid through her body. The familiarity and childhood memories in the air flank her like allies as she slams the wooden door shut behind her. With every bit of strength she has left, she throws her hands out towards the lock and concentrates. Then concentrates harder. A flicker of purple energy licks at the skin of her palms, shimmering and dancing in the air before her. She forces it forwards until it slams against the lock of the door. The metal refuses to budge. She grunts as she focuses harder. The brass lock loses the fight. With a loud squeak of protest, it melds and misshapes, finally fusing to the door and wall around it. The girl falls to the floor with a sob, her exhausted body sagging forward, her hair plastered to her sweat-stained skin, and her magic prickling around her. A dark shadow slices beneath the door. She slides a hand up to cover her mouth and muffle her tear-racked breaths. A shriek cuts through the silence as the door surrenders against the immense strength that bashes into it from the opposite side. The girl's not sure if the noise came from her or the melted metal of the lock that yielded like it was little more than paper. Her brown eyes snap up to meet the intruder's. His own eyes are soft, sad, regretful. She doesn't care. With another yell, she raises her hands and lets fly a blast of purple energy so strong it tears against the fibers of every muscle in her body. The magic smashes into the intruder's solid chest and does nothing. Horror makes her choke on a breath. Her blurred vision slides over the man before her. He's a wet silhouette through her tears, except for his enormous feathered wings. The wings are eerily beautiful in the moonlight. The crimson blood that drips from the ends of them is so out of place against the soft silver feathers which gleam with a sheen of gold in the dim light. "I am so sorry, child," he states and reaches out to her. She screams. Next chapter.